And it is striking that gold relative to M2, and remember we're saying M2 is starting to flatten out here. Gold relative to M2 really is as high as it's ever been, except for the Great Depression, when the money supply was collapsing, negative. It's no longer that now. And back then, gold was revalued. Or I should say devalued. It was a devaluation of the dollar in terms of gold. And that's why the spike back then. Now we don't have, the first condition anymore. Money growth has turned positive. But we do have the second condition in terms of, the dollar losing value relative to gold. And I think one of the bets that investors in gold are making is that the liquidity that spewed out during the COVID crisis is still going to find its way into inflation. We don't think so if money supply is topping out and velocity is rolling over. Now, I would like to give you, now that everybody thinks gold has only one way to go, if you look at the last two spikes there, meaning the last two other than the Depression, so the one in 1980 and the one a minor one in 2011. In 1980, gold peaked at $850. I was very young in my career, and I remember the day. And over the next 4 to 5 years roughly, it dropped 67%. Why was that? It was because Reaganomics was working, and investors decided to focus on the equity market and the bond market instead of hedging, continuing to hedge against the inflation that had been debilitating during the 70s. Inflation came down and continued falling, and the dollar became very strong. The dollar became better than gold. It was appreciating as gold was going down. And so gold dropped about 67% to $284 in February of 85. So yes, the gold price can go down, and we think we are moving into more than a Reaganomics market. We think this is Reaganomics on steroids, based on, especially on the tax cuts and the deregulation. Those two are much more formidable right now than they were in the early 80s, with the exception of the individual tax rate back then did drop by quite a lot, by 25%, I think, but it was phased in, and that's not the way to go. One thing about this administration, it has learned its lessons from the mistakes of Reaganomics. Do not phase in a tax cut. They made it retroactive. That was very smart. In 2011, the gold price peaked in September at roughly 1900. And by December of 2015, again, roughly 4 years later, we talk about the 4-year cycle in Bitcoin. That's pretty interesting. Both of those were effectively 4 years. Gold dropped from 1900 to 1050. So that was a 45% drop. And we would not be surprised to see something like that happen during the next 4 to 5 years.
Cathie Wood 关于黄金的观点。首先，黄金相对于 M2， 也就是货币供应，现在处于历史偏高的位置，除了大萧条时期例外。但那时是因为货币供给急剧崩塌，这种极端情况我们现在没有。今天的情况是货币增长已经转为正值，但美元相对黄金在走弱， 很多人押注的是疫情期间释放的海量流动性会最终变成持续的通胀，从而推高黄金。但实际上，如果货币供应见顶，货币流通速度回落，这些流动性不一定会变成长期通胀。再看历史，1980年黄金见顶后，在接下来的4到5年里下跌了大约 67%。2011年见顶后4年内也下跌了约 45%。为什么会这样？因为当时通胀回落，美元走强，投资者把注意力从黄金转向股市和债市。今天的一些政策像是加强版的里根经济学，更激进的减税和放松监管，这既可能支撑经济和市场，也可能改变资本流向。因此结论是，黄金有上行动力，如果美元继续贬值，但也有明显回撤风险。如果通胀缓和，市场更青睐股债。把黄金当作一种对宏观不确定性的押注，比把它当作稳妥保值手段更合适。